My dear students, welcome to the course of Architecture and Town Planning. I am your teacher Ravindra Kumar Khyani, Assistant Professor, Department of Architecture and Planning, NIT University of Engineering and Technology, Karachi, Sindh, Pakistan. Today the topic of our discussion is communication. What is communication? Communication means road network, railways, waterways, and airways. Today, our lecture is focused on road network and metropolitan railways. So let's begin with our lecture. Introduction. Cities are the engines of our civilization, where specialized services are available for our living, working, and recreation. It is a grave reality that no city can be termed as a good city which does not present or possess efficient communication system. Without good communication system, even the concept of city cannot be comprehended. It is such an integral part of city which shapes the city dynamics and makes its morphology. Communication is the basis of the existence of the city. It is the means of communication which defines significance of any city. There is an author, John Radcliffe, you already know him. The John Radcliffe says the greater the degree of specialization, the development and growth in society take place, and the greater the degree of dependence among the urban activities, and the greater the extent of movement between them. And this movement and communication in city thus determines the location of activities and use of land in the city. So communication is an integral part of the town planning. So keeping this statement in mind, it is quite significant for a physical land use planner or a city planner or a town planner or an architect or an urban engineer or a civil engineer to plan the means of communication within a city. The efficient communication is key to a positive land use pattern in the city. Therefore, the understanding of the communication systems is a prerequisite for a good planner or town planner or good urban or civil engineer. Let's talk about communication with respect to transportation. For an appropriate and rapid growth and development of a city, a good network of roads, railways, airways, and waterways is quite essential. As parks and open spaces are termed as the lungs for the city, similarly, roads and railways are the arteries of the city, and airways and waterways bring the blood circulation or the trade and commerce to the city. The layout of roads and railways within a city is determined by zones within a city, whereas the types of road determines the shape and size of the housing plots or housing in the city. The road network and street plans can be considered as the foundation of a town plan because no town plan can be made without the road network and the street network. Similarly, the airways and waterways and railways are the raison d'etre or reason of existence for the city. In all these developments, road system has always been a major aspect of transport system and very important aspect for the civil engineers. According to Automotive Trade Journal, the world's auto, at present there are more than 1.3 billion automobiles running in the roads and growing with very fast pace and reach up to 50% of the world's urban population. So it is estimated that by 2035, the number will reach at 2 billion vehicles. Just imagine how much vehicles we have in the world. Whereas the space requirements for automobiles become more than human beings need. So, because human being is a small entity, but vehicle is a very big thing, so it requires lots of space, more than humans in the city. So therefore, it is also a reality of transport planning that the roads fail to fulfill the needs of the automobile. And we cannot make or extend the roads network with that speed as automobiles are growing. So we will have left no space in the roads and the streets because as the vehicles are increasing so much, they require lots and lots of space. And we cannot make that much road network to accommodate these increasing vehicles. Therefore, in order to fulfill the needs of urban transportation, it is necessary to have a multi-modal mixed transit systems of roads, railways, waterways, and airways in any urban context or large metropolitan cities. Let's begin with our discussion on roads and road network. First of all, we must know the function and necessity of the roads and road network. The principal element of communication and transportation is road. Roads has four basic functions. Number one, movement of people and goods, access to residential places, provision of air and light to buildings, and provision of services and utilities both on overhead and in underground. Then let's talk about the classification in general. The classification of roads occurs on four variables. Number one, the type of construction gives us names like earth road, muram road, metal road, asphalt road, and concrete road. Here you can see the examples of earth road, muram road, asphalt road, and concrete road. Then we think about jurisdiction. The jurisdictions gives us the names like local road, district road, state road, national highway, and here you can see the example of the state highway, district roads, local roads, and national highways. Then there is a shape geometry, which defines roads like rectangular road, ring road, diagonal road, radial road, and circular road. And here you can see the ring road, diagonal road, and circular road. So the function of road gives us names like residential road, commercial road or avenue, the promenade along seaside or any natural features known as promenade, and boulevard and parkways. Just you know as Sunset Boulevard. Boulevard and parkways and promenade is present here in front of you. So now you can see that how we can classify roads with various variables. Let's go ahead. Now let's look at the roads classification in an urban context, in a city context, in a town context. The urban roads are classified specifically in four categories as per their significance. These include the arterial road, the secondary or subarterial road, local road, and other roads. Arterial roads are those which connect the town with the state highway and national highway. For example, this is an example of arterial road. They pass through the city and made for fast moving traffic with heavy load of passengers and goods. They are especially planned straight by avoiding sharp curves with not less than 25 to 30 meters width. Then there are secondary or sub-arterial road, and these are known as major roads of the city, connecting the major parts of the city. For example, we have Emegina Road, Shara Faisal, and similarly in other cities, I don't know what other names are, but there is Mal Road in Lahore, for example. So these are the major roads of the city. So this is an example of secondary or sub-arterial road. You can see the figure on the right. So they are especially designed for comparatively slow moving traffic and act as a link between an arterial road and local road. The local roads are known as the minor roads to provide access to the buildings and housing and commercial areas. Here is this local road example. So they are not linked with the arterial road and processes no through traffic. So there is no through traffic. This is just a simple road and access to the residential or commercial buildings. Then further discussing about the road classification in urban context. The other urban roads are the bypass road, outer and inner ring roads, the expressways and freeways. Here you can see the example. The bypass roads are made to avoid congested city areas, to increase the speed of vehicles with smooth flow and to save time and fuel. They are also known as loop roads. If you go from Karachi to Peshawar, you find that the small cities coming on the Indus Highway that has these loop roads or bypass roads. And many of the people who belong to that area, they know very well what I'm talking about. Then the outer and inner ring roads are in the form of ring within and surrounding town to divert the traffic from city and act as a bypass to reduce the traffic congestion. Here is these examples. The expressways mainly function as an arterial road within megacities to accommodate the growth of the traffic. For example, we have made the Lyari Expressway in Karachi. Then they are specially designed with an easy gradients and smooth curves to carry speedy and safe traffic and do not form a part of a street system. Here are some examples in front of you. They are comparable next to the railways in cost and capacity of the traffic. For instance, in Karachi, they propose BRT instead of MTR. BRT is a bus rapid transit instead of mass transit railway, MTR. Now, freeways are special routes to carry fast moving traffic. They are specifically designed with high standard of alignment, clear visibility, wide carriageways, easy gradient, and smooth curves. The freeways function as an arterial road passing around city with controlled access. After having the discussion about the road network and classification of roads, let's talk about the metropolitan railways. Another major element of communication and transport is railways and rail network. Here you can see the images of the Bombay Railway Network and the New York Railway Station. It is an evident fact that the railways gave impetus to industrial revolution, whereas metropolitan railways have been a significant element of city today. No city in the world, especially the mega cities, can be imagined without having a metropolitan railway system. I think Karachi is the only city in the world not having a metropolitan railways to its full capacity, or it's not being started yet. But we have the project of Karachi Circular Railway. I'll talk about it later in this class. Now, let's begin and talk about further. It is a grave reality that urban rail transport has played an important role and will continue to play a vital part in creating and sustaining the cities of today and tomorrow. And in yesteryears, the cities only become large because of the provision of the metropolitan railways, because it has provided a trade and commerce to the city, and it has provided the movement of peoples and goods a lot in the city, and that gives the boom to the business, and as a repercussion migration takes place, and as a repercussion city flourishes to current scale or large scale or megacity scale. Now let's discuss about the definition and meaning of the metropolitan railways. The term metropolitan railways cover a great variety of facilities. Primarily, it includes the rapid transit facilities or railways, which include self-contained right-of-way and stations located below and above the ground level. The metropolitan railways are primarily designed to handle relatively heavy volumes of inner urban and suburban traffic over a medium distance. It means that a lot of people are going to travel on these mode of transport. Its major advantage is higher commercial speed if compared with other public transport and congested roads of the city. So in order to avoid the congestion, we require metropolitan railways. Its only disadvantages is the longer walk to and from the station, and we can provide solutions for that. Let's talk about the types and classification of metropolitan railways. The metropolitan railways can be divided in various types and systems and classifications. For example, first of all, there are subways, then there are undergrounds, then there are metros, then there are metropolitanos, and then there are U-Bahn systems and S-Bahn systems. These types and classification of metropolitan railways are based upon speed, facilities, and mode of transport in each urban context. For instance, the faster urban railway are related to mainline suburban railways such as S-Bahn, Rasao Express, Regional Underground streetcars, Pre-Metro, U-Straßenbahn, etc., etc. These are the different, you can say, metropolitan railway systems around the world. And I'll discuss every one of them. Some non-typical modes of urban railways are funicular, known as inner urban rapid transit facilities. Then there are modern developments in the metropolitan railways. So after this brief background of metropolitan railways, it is necessary to understand the modern developments in metropolitan railways. Basically, there are four types of developments occur in metropolitan railways. Number one is S-Bahn systems, underground streetcars, non-typical modes, and subways. Let's discuss them in detail. S-Bahn system. Here you can see the example of S-Bahn system. The S-Bahn is a German term which is originally derived from the Metropolitan Railway system in Berlin. The original terminology of S-Bahn emerged from the Stadt, Ring und Vorobahn, which means city, circle, and the suburban railways. However, it would be inconvenient to pronounce the term in totality, therefore S-Bahn system emerged as a generic term. And people recognize S-Bahn system. The S-Bahn systems are mainly developed to promote the growth of conurbation and suburban growth or extend the city to suburbs. So it is one kind of suburban railway system. They are used to support the suburban commuter traffic along the radial lines to the central areas. So this gives birth to the horizontal growth of the city, and as a repercussion, suburban areas develop, and these suburban communities then link to the central city. In suburban area, they have very good environment, and in cities, they have more congested environment. But metropolitan railways solve this problem. The S-Bahn system develops in various megacities of the world, such as there are two links in Berlin and Hamburg, the junction lines in Brussels, then S-Bahn in the Copenhagen, the Schnellbahn in Vienna, the blue trains in Glasgow, the new S-Bahn in Munich and Frankfurt. Similarly, there are advanced S-Bahn systems are built in Ruhr region of Germany, and that is in Stuttgart, the Manchester, Liverpool, and Melbourne. So these are the cities which have this system of metropolitan railway or S-Bahn system. Then there are underground streetcars. These are also very popular mode of transport, especially in metropolitan railways. The concept of underground street can mainly develop in Boston, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Oslo, and Vienna. Basically, underground streetcars develop to distinguish between subways and conventional streetcars along the surface road on the basis of the speed and capacity and scales. The underground streetcars are promoted for in-town tunnel sections. Within a city, they make a tunnel and connect the different special parts of the city. And operations with or without signaling system. So they have this automatic system of moving trains and stopping trains. And this is very popular in these cities. These are also termed as a short capacity metropolitan railways. Though there is a great decline in underground streetcars all over the world, however, in Germany and Belgium, these are mainly developed with an intention to serve as an immediate stage to a full-fledged subway. It means that before making a full-fledged subway system, they have made this intermediate system. Furthermore, the concept of underground streetcars can be understood with the notion that these are the low capacity underground railways which are intended to achieve high speed and to save energy and resources. Then there are non-typical modes of metropolitan railways. What are these non-typical? You can see on your right side the figures and you will understand. In few cases, the urban transport demands for non-typical modes of metropolitan railways due to some geographical or topographical reason. For example, if there are a river or you can say there are mountains, and then there you wanted this kind of system, or there is a historical district where you wanted to pass through you require non-typical in a historical district, as there are so many historical buildings and you wanted not to disturb those buildings, so you make such kind of non-typical modes of metropolitan railways that can suit the situation of the context. Let's talk about further. The prominent example is Schwebbahan above and above the river of Wuppertal, the funicular railway in Haifa and Istanbul, and the rock railway Lausanne, Kue are the examples. So these are three main, you can say, examples of non-typical modes of metropolitan railways. Mainly, the list of non-typical modes of railways shall continue in the future due to revived modes of rail transport. Then the other type of metropolitan railways, metropolitan subways. The metropolitan railways have always been termed as fringe mode of transport, which can lead you toward the suburban area and the fringes of the area, fringes of the city, or in the peripheral areas of the city. From these fringe modes, there is a great majority of subways and rapid transit railways. In many cases, these are in-town subways or elevated railways line were later extended to the suburban areas. The cities of Stockholm and Helsinki are the examples of such smaller cities where these subways have been developed. Now let's look at the Karachi Circular Railway, one of the major projects that we have in Karachi. The Karachi Circular Railway begins from the Ring Road. It will be the elevated railway system, then it reaches the Kansas area, then it goes to Srinagar and Chandisar Road, and further it will be having Dewan Colony, and then there's Karachi Gate, where the CPOs, and then the train will reach at the Karachi station, then it goes to Tower. From Tower it goes to Dipu, the Green Mansion, and Yari University. Then there is the Baldia station, Charmity elevated station. There is site area where the metropolitan go, then there's Mangopi, HPL, HPL flyover, and then Aurangabad, Nagpur, and then it will reach Jamunabad, and it will go to Jafinabad, then it will go to the Gilani station. And then it goes to Nipa, and from Nipa it goes to Aladin, from Aladin it goes to Johor, from Johor it reaches back to the Drink Road station. So this is like a circular railway that is we are going to have in Karachi very soon. Okay, let's go ahead. Finally, let's look at the world's case study of the world's largest metropolitan system, metropolitan railway system. These are the busiest metropolitan systems in the world. The system of this ranking system is based on the annual ridership and the system length, the number of stations and service frequency of these metropolitan railways. First of all, let's talk about the Moscow Metro. The city of Moscow is most populous metropolitan area in Europe with 20.3 million residents. Moscow Metro opened in 1935. Masterpiece of art and architecture and the tourist attraction. This is the most, you can say, beautiful railway station. The deepest section, Park Kobe station, is 84 meters long. It consists of 232 stations and 14 lines. It is the fourth longest metro system in the world and longest outside the China system, which is 408 kilometers. The average daily ridership is 7 million passengers. And this 2,560 million annual ridership. Then there is a Seoul subway. Seoul is one of the greatest cities. Seoul is a vibrant city of 9.7 million residents. Seoul subway opened in 1974. Most modern, efficient, reliable, easy to use and clean railway station system or multiple railways. It has wireless internet service on all its trains, so you can use it over there. And many stations are extremely far underground. Then it consists of 437 stations and 9 lines. The system length is 353 kilometers. The average daily ridership is 5.6 million passengers that daily go through this railway station. The annual ridership is 2,040 million. Then is Shanghai Metro. It's also one of the greatest metro systems. Shanghai is the most populous city in China with 24.2 million residents. The Shanghai Metro opened in 1993. It's the third oldest rapid transit system in mainland China. The world's second biggest metro system by route length, system length is 676 km or 420 miles. It is 100% stations with step-free access. It consists of 413 stations and 16 lines. The average daily ridership is 10.63 million passengers. And daily ridership record is 13.29 million in March 8, 2019. The annual ridership in millions is 388,006. Then there is Beijing subway. You can see how busy it is. Beijing is the second largest Chinese city with 21.5 million residents. Beijing subway opened in 1969, oldest metro system in mainland China. World's longest metro system by route length system is 699 km or 434.5 miles. It consists of 405 stations and 23 lines. It is extensive expansion plans and it is 998 km of lines and 18.5 million daily trips by 2021. The average daily ridership is 10.82 million passengers. The daily ridership record is 13.7 million on July 12, 2019. The annual ridership in millions is 390,950.87. The ridership increased exponentially since 2008's Olympics. Then there is Mexico City Metro. See how many people are there in the station. The greater Mexico City is 21.3 million residents. And Mexico City Metro opened in 1969. The second largest metro system in North America after the New York City subway station. The feature in 1990 Hollywood movie Total Recall, you can see this Metropolitan Railway. Best value for money metro system in the world. Single ride costs just 5 pesos or 0.2.0. Consists of 195 stations and 12 lines. The system length is 226 km or 140 miles. The average daily ridership is 4.53 million passengers and annual ridership is 1655.40 million. Then there's Guangzhou Metro in China. Guangzhou is the most populous metropolitan area in China with 25 million residents. Guangzhou Metro opened in 1997 with 1 line and 5 stations. It's the fourth metro system built in the mainland China after Beijing, Tianjin and Shanghai. First metro line connecting 2 cities in the country, Guangzhou line connects Guangzhou and Foshan. The third system in the world by both track length and annual ridership. It consists of 271 stations and 14 lines. And system length is 514.8 km or 319 miles. The average daily ridership is 9.05 million passengers. The annual ridership in millions is 3305.90. Then there is Cairo Metro. It's more popular among the tourists. The Cairo metropolitan area is 20.4 million residents. And Cairo Metro was launched in 1987. The first metro system in Africa and Arab world. It reduces severe congestion on the road network. And women-only carriages are also there in the middle of 2 cars of each train set. Consists of 65 stations and 3 lines. The system length is 77.9 km or 48.4 miles. The average daily ridership is 2.52 million passengers. And annual ridership is 919.80 million. Then there is Hong Kong MTR. I've also experienced this metro. It's a very fantastic metro in Hong Kong. Hong Kong has 7.5 million residents and high density of 6,777 people. The MTR first line opened in 1979. The most profitable metro system in the world because it has the real estate development also. They're ranking the #1 metro system in the world by CNN in 2017. Achieved 99.9% on-time rate on its train journeys. Consists of 163 stations and 23 lines. The system length is 210.9 km and average daily ridership is 5.61 million passengers. The annual ridership in millions is 2047.65. Then there is Sao Paulo Metro. The Sao Paulo is the greater Sao Paulo area is 21.5 million residents. Sao Paulo Metro began operation in 1974. One of the cleanest systems in the world by the ISO 9001 that they have achieved. The most modern metro system in Latin America. One of the best metro system of the world by Business Insider. It consists of 89 stations and 6 lines. The system length is 101 km or 62 miles. Average daily ridership is 4.09 million passengers. Annual ridership is 1494.30 million people. Then there is a Tokyo subway. The greater Tokyo area has 37.4 million residents. And Tokyo subway was launched in 1927. Consists of Tokyo Metro and Toei subway. Ranked first in worldwide subway usage. Ranked first in worldwide subway usage, and this makes only 27% of Tokyo's daily rail transport. Home of the famous platform attendants or Ushiya, which fit the people in the trains. It consists of 285 stations and 13 lines. System length is 304.1 km. Most busiest in the world. Average daily ridership is 10.78 million passengers. And annual ridership is 3936.70 passengers. So, I hope you have understood very well. These are the reference which I have used for this lecture. Thank you for watching. For lecture notes, visit my blog www.townplanninglectures.blogspot.com. Okay, class is finished now, and you can do whatever you like to do, but don't trouble anyone. Thank you very much. Goodbye and good luck.